Welcome to Toxic from Reddit, where real toxic relationship stories come to life. Here you'll hear true stories from people who experience toxic relationships from different perspectives. Partners dealing with cheating, manipulation, gaslighting, red flags, and all the emotional chaos that comes with loving someone who hurts you. Stories of betrayal, of finding strength to leave, of discovering the truth, of heartbreak, of healing, and the raw reality of toxic love. This is a real story, shared anonymously on Reddit. Some details have been changed to protect the identity of the people involved. Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie. I'm 28 years old and I live in Seattle, Washington, and I need to tell you about the most disturbing and twisted discovery that has completely destroyed my relationship and has made me question everything I thought I knew about the man I loved, which is that 6 weeks ago I found a secret phone hidden in my boyfriend's car. And when I looked through it, I discovered that he's been catfishing dozens of women online using fake profiles with stolen photos. He's been having emotional affairs with these women. He's been manipulating them and lying to them. He's been asking them for money and intimate photos. And he's been doing all of this while being in a committed relationship with me for the past 2 years. And now I'm dealing with the horrifying reality that the person I trusted and loved is actually a predator who gets pleasure from deceiving and manipulating vulnerable women. I'm going to tell you this entire story from the beginning because what I discovered is so disturbing and so complex that you need to understand the full scope of my boyfriend's deception and the double life he's been living. My boyfriend's name is Tyler. He's 30 years old, and we met 2.5 years ago through a dating app. Tyler and I matched on the app, and we started chatting, and he seemed like a great guy. Like he was funny and charming, and he seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. We went on our first date to a nice restaurant in Seattle, and I was impressed by how attentive and thoughtful Tyler was. Like he asked me questions about myself, he listened to my answers, and he made me feel special and valued. Tyler and I continued dating, and the relationship progressed naturally. And within a few months, we were exclusive, and we were spending most of our free time together. Tyler worked as a software developer for a tech company, and he had a flexible schedule that allowed him to work from home several days a week. I work as a nurse at a hospital, and I have a demanding schedule with long shifts and irregular hours. Because of our different schedules, Tyler and I didn't live together, but we would stay at each other's apartments several nights a week, and we would spend weekends together. Tyler seemed like a great boyfriend, like he was supportive and caring. He would bring me coffee when I had early shifts. He would cook dinner for me when I had late shifts, and he would plan thoughtful dates and surprises. I felt lucky to have found someone who seemed so attentive and so invested in our relationship. There were a few things about Tyler that I found slightly odd, but I never thought they were major red flags. For example, Tyler was very protective of his phone, like he always kept it face down. He would take it with him everywhere, including to the bathroom, and he had a passcode that he never shared with me. I thought this was a little strange because I'm generally pretty open with my phone and I don't have anything to hide, but I also respected Tyler's privacy, and I didn't want to be the kind of girlfriend who demanded access to her boyfriend's phone. Tyler was also very active on social media. Like he was constantly on his phone scrolling through Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and he would spend hours every day on his devices. I would sometimes joke with Tyler about being addicted to his phone, and Tyler would laugh and say that he just liked staying connected with friends and keeping up with current events. Tyler also had a habit of staying up very late at night on his phone. Like even when he was staying at my apartment, he would stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning on his phone. And when I would ask him what he was doing, he would say that he was working on a project, or that he was talking to friends. I thought it was a little inconsiderate that Tyler would stay up so late on his phone when I was trying to sleep, but I didn't think it was a major issue, and I just assumed that Tyler had different sleep habits than I did. About a year into our relationship, I started noticing that Tyler would sometimes receive text messages or phone calls that he would ignore, or that he would step outside to take. When I would ask Tyler who was calling or texting, he would say it was work or it was a friend, and he would be vague about the details. I started to feel a little suspicious that maybe Tyler was hiding something from me, but I also didn't want to be paranoid or controlling, so I tried to push those feelings aside. There were also a few times when Tyler would mention women's names that I didn't recognize. Like he would say something like, "Oh, Sarah told me about this restaurant," or "Jessica recommended this show," and when I would ask Tyler who these women were, he would say they were co-workers or old friends, and he would quickly change the subject. I found it strange that Tyler had so many female friends that I had never met or heard about before, but Tyler would say that he had a lot of friends from college and from previous jobs, and that it was normal to have friends of the opposite sex. I agreed that it was normal to have friends of the opposite sex, and I didn't want to be the kind of girlfriend who was jealous or insecure, so I didn't push the issue. About 6 months ago, Tyler started acting differently. Like he seemed more distant and more distracted, and he seemed less interested in spending time with me. Tyler would cancel plans at the last minute. He would say he was too tired to go out, and he would spend more time on his phone even when we were together. I tried to talk to Tyler about the changes I was noticing, and I asked him if everything was okay. And Tyler said that he was just stressed about work, and that he had a lot of projects he was working on. I wanted to be supportive, so I tried to give Tyler space and I tried not to be demanding, but I also felt hurt that he seemed to be pulling away from me. About 2 months ago, Tyler and I had plans to go away for a weekend trip to celebrate our 2-year anniversary. I was really looking forward to the trip because I felt like Tyler and I needed some quality time together to reconnect. But 2 days before we were supposed to leave, Tyler told me that he had to cancel the trip because something had come up at work and he needed to stay in Seattle. I was disappointed and frustrated, and I felt like Tyler was prioritizing work over our relationship. Tyler apologized and said that he would make it up to me, but I could tell that he wasn't as upset about canceling the trip as I was. That weekend, while Tyler was supposedly working, I tried to reach him several times by phone and text, but he was slow to respond. And when he did respond, his messages were short and vague. I started to feel suspicious that maybe Tyler wasn't actually working, and that maybe he was doing something else that he didn't want me to know about. On Sunday evening, I decided to drive to Tyler's apartment to surprise him and to see if he was really there working like he said he was. When I arrived at Tyler's apartment, his car was in the parking lot, so I knew he was home. I knocked on the door, and Tyler answered, and he looked surprised and a little annoyed to see me. I asked Tyler if I could come in, and Tyler hesitated for a moment, but then he let me in. Tyler's apartment was messy, and there were empty food containers and soda cans everywhere, and it looked like Tyler had been spending the entire weekend inside on his computer. I asked Tyler how work was going, and Tyler said it was fine, and that he had been working on a big project. I could tell that Tyler was being evasive, and I started to feel more suspicious that something was going on. I stayed at Tyler's apartment for a few hours, and the entire time Tyler seemed distracted and uncomfortable, like he kept checking his phone and he kept glancing at his computer. I asked Tyler if everything was okay, and Tyler said that everything was fine, but I didn't believe him. When I left Tyler's apartment that night, I felt more confused and more concerned than ever, and I couldn't shake the feeling that Tyler was hiding something from me. Over the next few weeks, I continued to notice strange behavior from Tyler, like he would receive phone calls that he would ignore, he would get text messages that would make him smile or laugh but that he wouldn't share with me, and he would spend hours on his computer doing things that he wouldn't explain. I started to feel like I was going crazy, like I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And Tyler kept insisting that everything was fine and that I was being paranoid. About 6 weeks ago, Tyler and I had plans to go to dinner, and Tyler was going to pick me up from my apartment. Tyler arrived at my apartment, and we got in his car, and as we were driving to the restaurant, Tyler's phone started ringing. Tyler looked at his phone, and he ignored the call, but then the phone rang again, and Tyler seemed flustered and annoyed. I asked Tyler who was calling, and Tyler said it was a telemarketer, but I could tell he was lying. We arrived at the restaurant, and during dinner, Tyler's phone kept buzzing with text messages, and Tyler kept checking his phone and typing responses, and I felt like I didn't have his full attention. I was frustrated, and I said, "Tyler, can you please put your phone away? I feel like you're not even present with me right now." Tyler apologized and put his phone in his pocket, but I could tell he was distracted and anxious. After dinner, we went back to my apartment, and Tyler said he was tired and that he was going to go home. I was disappointed because I had hoped Tyler would stay over, but I didn't want to argue, so I said okay. Tyler left, and I felt sad and frustrated about the state of our relationship. The next day, I had a day off from work, and I decided that I needed to do something to figure out what was going on with Tyler. I knew that Tyler was working from home that day, so I decided to drive to his apartment to talk to him. When I arrived at Tyler's apartment building, I saw Tyler's car in the parking lot, and I was about to go up to his apartment when I noticed something strange. There was a phone sitting on the dashboard of Tyler's car, and it was lighting up with notifications. I looked closer, and I realized that it wasn't Tyler's regular phone. It was a different phone that I had never seen before. I felt my heart start racing, and I knew that I needed to look at that phone. I tried the car door, and it was unlocked, so I opened the door, and I picked up the phone. The phone didn't have a passcode, so I was able to unlock it immediately, and what I saw on that phone made me feel sick to my stomach. The phone had multiple dating apps installed, including Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, and several others. I opened the apps, and I saw that Tyler had created fake profiles using photos of attractive men that he had clearly stolen from the internet. The profiles had fake names, fake ages, fake occupations, and fake bios, and Tyler was using these profiles to match with women and to start conversations with them. I started reading through the conversations, and I was horrified by what I saw. Tyler was talking to dozens of women, and he was using different personas and different stories with each woman. With some women, he was pretending to be a doctor. With other women, he was pretending to be a military officer. With other women, he was pretending to be a successful entrepreneur. Tyler was telling these women elaborate lies about his life, and he was building emotional connections with them, and he was manipulating them into trusting him. I kept scrolling through the conversations, and I saw that Tyler was asking some of these women for money, like he would tell them that he was in a difficult financial situation or that he needed help with an emergency, and some of the women were actually sending him money. I also saw that Tyler was asking some of these women for intimate photos, and some of the women were sending him explicit photos of themselves. I felt like I was going to throw up, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I kept looking through the phone, and I found that Tyler also had multiple email accounts and multiple social media accounts that he was using to catfish women. I found emails where Tyler was pretending to be different people and was scamming women out of money and photos. I found Facebook profiles where Tyler was using fake identities and was building relationships with women. I found Instagram accounts where Tyler was posting stolen photos and was pretending to be someone he wasn't. The scope of Tyler's deception was massive, and I realized that he had been doing this for a long time, possibly even before he met me. I sat in Tyler's car for over an hour reading through everything on the phone, and I felt a range of emotions: shock, disgust, betrayal, anger, and sadness. I couldn't believe that the man I loved and trusted was actually a predator who was manipulating and deceiving vulnerable women for his own pleasure and financial gain. I took photos of everything on the phone with my own phone so that I would have evidence. And then I put the secret phone back on the dashboard where I had found it. I went up to Tyler's apartment, and I knocked on the door. And when Tyler answered, I pushed past him and walked inside. Tyler looked confused, and he said, "Stephanie, what are you doing here? I thought you were working today." I said, "I found your secret phone, Tyler. I know what you've been doing." Tyler's face went completely white, and he said, "What are you talking about? I don't have a secret phone." I said, "Don't lie to me. I found the phone in your car. I saw the dating apps. I saw the fake profiles. I saw the conversations with all of those women. I know that you've been catfishing people." Tyler was silent for a moment, and then he tried to deny it. And he said, "That's not my phone. I don't know what you're talking about." I said, "Tyler, stop lying. I know it's your phone. I read through everything. I saw the messages. I saw the photos. I know what you've been doing." Tyler realized that he couldn't deny it anymore, and he sat down on the couch and put his head in his hands. I said, "How could you do this? How could you lie to all of those women? How could you manipulate them and scam them? And how could you do this while you were in a relationship with me?" Tyler was quiet for a long time, and then he said, "I don't know. I have a problem. I can't stop." I said, "What do you mean you have a problem? Are you saying you're addicted to catfishing people?" Tyler said, "I don't know what's wrong with me. I've been doing this for years. I started doing it before I met you. And I tried to stop when we started dating, but I couldn't. It's like an addiction." I said, "So you've been lying to me for our entire relationship. You've been living a double life this entire time." Tyler said, "I never cheated on you physically. I never met up with any of these women. It was all online." I said, "That doesn't make it okay, Tyler. You are having emotional affairs with dozens of women. You are manipulating them and lying to them. You are asking them for money and for intimate photos. That's not just an addiction. That's predatory behavior." Tyler started crying, and he said, "I know. I'm so sorry. I'm a terrible person. I need help." I said, "You do need help, but I can't be the one to help you. What you've done is unforgivable." I said, "And what about all of those women you've been scamming? They trusted you, they believed your lies, and you took advantage of them. You need to take responsibility for what you've done to them." Tyler said, "I know. I'll stop. I'll delete all of the profiles. I'll never do it again." I said, "It's too late, Tyler. The damage is already done. You've hurt so many people and you've destroyed our relationship." I told Tyler that I was leaving and that I never wanted to see him again. Tyler begged me not to leave, and he said that he loved me, and that he would get help, and that he would change. But I told him that I didn't believe him, and that I couldn't be with someone who was capable of such deception and manipulation. I left Tyler's apartment, and I drove home, and I spent the rest of the day crying and trying to process what I had discovered. Over the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about all of the women that Tyler had been catfishing, and I felt guilty that I hadn't discovered what he was doing sooner. I felt like I had a responsibility to warn these women about who Tyler really was, so I decided to reach out to some of them. I used the photos I had taken of Tyler's secret phone to find some of the women on social media, and I sent them messages explaining who I was and what Tyler had been doing. The responses I received were heartbreaking. Like many of these women had believed that they were in real relationships with the fake personas that Tyler had created, and they were devastated to learn that they had been deceived. Some of the women had sent Tyler hundreds or even thousands of dollars, and they were angry and hurt that they had been scammed. Some of the women had sent Tyler intimate photos, and they were terrified that Tyler might use those photos to blackmail them or to post them online. I tried to reassure these women that I didn't think Tyler would do that, but I also told them that they should report Tyler to the police and to the dating apps where he had created fake profiles. Several of the women told me that they were going to report Tyler, and I decided that I should report him as well. I went to the police and I filed a report about what Tyler had been doing, and I provided them with all of the evidence I had collected from his secret phone. The police told me that what Tyler was doing could potentially be considered fraud and identity theft, and that they would investigate. I also reported Tyler to the dating apps where he had created fake profiles, and I provided them with screenshots and evidence of his fake accounts. The dating apps told me that they would investigate, and that they would ban Tyler from their platforms if they found that he had violated their terms of service. After I reported Tyler, I blocked him on all forms of communication, and I tried to move on with my life. But Tyler didn't give up easily. Like, he created new phone numbers and new email addresses to try to contact me, and he would send me long messages apologizing and begging for another chance. Tyler's messages would say things like, "I'm so sorry for what I did, I'm getting help, I'm going to therapy, I'm a different person now, please give me another chance." But I didn't respond to any of Tyler's messages, because I knew that he was just trying to manipulate me the same way he had manipulated all of those other women. About a month ago, I received a call from a detective who was investigating Tyler's catfishing activities. The detective told me that multiple women had come forward with complaints about Tyler, and that they were building a case against him. The detective asked me to provide a statement about my relationship with Tyler and about what I had discovered, and I agreed to cooperate with the investigation. The detective told me that Tyler could potentially face criminal charges for fraud and identity theft, depending on the evidence they were able to gather. I felt relieved that Tyler was being held accountable for his actions, and I hoped that the investigation would prevent him from hurting more people. About 2 weeks ago, I found out through a mutual friend that Tyler had been fired from his job at the tech company. Apparently, Tyler's employer had found out about the catfishing allegations, and they had decided to terminate his employment. I felt a sense of justice knowing that Tyler was facing consequences for his actions, but I also felt sad that so many people had been hurt by his deception. I've been going to therapy to help me process everything that happened, and my therapist has been helping me understand that what Tyler did was not my fault, and that I couldn't have known about his secret life. My therapist has also been helping me work through my feelings of betrayal and my difficulty trusting people after this experience. My therapist has explained to me that catfishing is often a form of compulsive behavior, and that people who engage in catfishing often have underlying psychological issues, such as low self-esteem, narcissism, or addiction to attention and validation. My therapist has helped me understand that Tyler's behavior was about his own issues and his own need for control and validation, and that it had nothing to do with me or with anything I did or didn't do. I've been thinking a lot about the red flags that I missed or ignored in my relationship with Tyler, like his excessive phone use, his secrecy about his devices, his vague explanations about who he was talking to, and his tendency to stay up late on his phone. I've realized that I ignored these red flags because I wanted to trust Tyler, and because I didn't want to be the kind of girlfriend who was controlling or suspicious. But I've learned that it's important to pay attention to red flags, and that it's okay to ask questions and to expect transparency in a relationship. I've been thinking about all of the women that Tyler catfished, and I've been wondering how many of them there were in total, and how much money Tyler scammed from them, and how many intimate photos he collected. The scope of Tyler's deception was so massive that I don't think I'll ever know the full extent of what he did. I've been thinking about whether Tyler will face criminal charges, and whether he'll be held accountable for the harm he caused to so many people. I hope that he will, because what he did was not just morally wrong, it was also illegal, and he deserves to face consequences. I've been thinking about whether Tyler will ever change, and whether he'll ever stop catfishing people. My therapist has told me that people who engage in compulsive behaviors like catfishing often struggle to stop even when they face consequences, and that Tyler would need intensive therapy and treatment to address the underlying issues that drive his behavior. I hope that Tyler does get help, not for my sake, but for the sake of all of the potential future victims who might be hurt by him if he doesn't change. I've been thinking about my own healing process, and about how I'm going to move forward after this experience. I know that it's going to take time for me to fully process what happened, and to rebuild my ability to trust, but I'm committed to doing the work. I've been spending time with friends and family who support me, and I've been focusing on self-care and on activities that bring me joy. I've also been educating myself about catfishing and online scams, and I've been learning about the warning signs so that I can protect myself in the future. I've been thinking about dating again eventually, but I'm not ready yet, because I need to heal, and I need to feel confident in my ability to recognize red flags and to trust my instincts. When I do start dating again, I know that I'm going to be much more careful about vetting potential partners, and I'm going to be more assertive about asking questions and expecting transparency. I've been thinking about other people who might be in similar situations, who might be dating someone who's living a double life, or who might be victims of catfishing themselves, and I want to tell them that they're not alone. I want to tell them that catfishing is more common than people realize, and that it can happen to anyone, regardless of how smart or careful they are. I want to tell them that if they discover that their partner has been catfishing people, it's not their fault, and they shouldn't blame themselves for not seeing the signs sooner. I want to tell them that they should report catfishing to the police and to the platforms where it's happening, because catfishing is not just morally wrong, it's often illegal, and the perpetrators need to be held accountable. And I want to tell them that they deserve to be with someone who's honest and authentic, and who doesn't live a double life or manipulate people for their own gratification. I want to tell them that healing is possible, and that even though the betrayal feels devastating right now, they will eventually be able to trust again and to open their hearts to someone who deserves their love. Thank you for reading my story, and if you've been through something similar, if you've discovered that your partner was catfishing people, if you've been a victim of catfishing yourself, if you've had to report someone to the police for online fraud, or if you've had to rebuild your ability to trust after a massive betrayal, I would love to hear how you dealt with it and where you are now. I'm still healing from this experience, still processing the betrayal, still cooperating with the police investigation, and still working on rebuilding my sense of trust and my ability to recognize red flags. But I'm hopeful about the future, and I'm grateful that I discovered the truth about Tyler before I wasted any more of my life with him.